Hey everyone, welcome back to another potato video. I am a gigantic fan of music. Rock and roll, R&B, rap, country. I love movie soundtracks, I love video game soundtracks, I love them all. A lot of my favorite music actually comes from video game soundtracks, whether it be covers or the actual original soundtracks. When you can buy them, I'm looking at you, Japanese companies. So I thought I'd do a video where I give you 5 artists who I'd like to see work on a video game soundtrack. So I'm going to give you the artist, the type of game I think it would be, and kind of just my basic reasoning of why I think they should do it. But before we get to that, remember to hit the like button and hit the notification to know when I post a video. Anyways, let's get into it. Number 5, I'm going to go with a relatively smaller artist who I found, thanks to the Game Grumps, called Tatsuyamaru. He is a phenomenal guitarist. He makes beautiful music, whether it be acoustic or electronic, and I think he would be primed to make a fantastic video game soundtrack. And for Tatsuya, the genre that I think would best fit his music style would be something that's a little more laid back, you know, like a walking simulator in the vein of like a Gone Home, or What Remains of Edith Finch. Maybe not necessarily as dark a story, though I think he could do that. You can also go with like a mobile game, as long as it's on par with something like Florence. I think his music belongs in something that great. Check him out, Tatsuya Maruyama. He's a fantastic artist, and I hope he keeps making music. He's great at it. Number 4 is probably going to be the second biggest long shot on this list, and that's Daft Punk. Unfortunately, they recently broke up earlier this year. They're one of the greatest duos of all time. I don't think I really need to justify why I want them to do a video game soundtrack. If you just look at their work, from Discovery to Tron Legacy to Random Access Memories to everything in between, it's all just basically perfect. Like, they've had almost a near perfect career. I think they could do any genre, but if I were to pick a style of game that they should do, I would go with something like a classic 2D platformer, or something along the lines of Fury, with the same style, something really artistic that will really vibe with their music, like bright and colorful. It's just something I want to see done. Unfortunately, it really looks like there's no chance with them breaking up. Daft Punk, number 4 on the list. Moving on up, one of the best, if not the best R&B artist in the world, The Weeknd. He's always really transforming himself and doing something new with his music. He was the first one to really start doing this dark R&B music. It's really cool if you look back at his career, how far ahead he was of everyone. Everyone started doing really dark R&B music after he did. The genre that I think would best suit him, though, would actually be something along the lines of like a first-person shooter, something dark and gritty, like, for example, like an Uncut Gems, which he just so happens to be in. Like, a real gritty drama that really plays on the darkness of his music. He could do other stuff too. He's such a talented artist. I mean, he's been Oscar nominated for God's sake. He's so good. He should have won too. That's another story. Yeah, I would go with a really narrative-heavy, gritty first-person shooter. I think that would be the perfect game for him to add his music to. And number 2 on the list, I hold near and dear to my heart. They're probably my personal favorite on this list, is Tupperware Remix Party, aka Twerp. I found them because of Game Grumps back in the day, 2014, 2015-ish. And so the thing about Twerp, they're a lot of fun. You want to pick a genre that's going to play on that fun aspect of their music. And I'm thinking probably around 3 genres for them. 2D platformer, I think if you listen to the first song from their first EP, it screams Mega Man, and I've never been able to get that out of my head since I heard that. I even think their music would fit really well in an RPG, a la Final Fantasy VI, or you can go in the 3D realm in like Final Fantasy VII, just something that has a distinct style, and for some reason I just always think retro with them, so I'm thinking like from the PS1 era back. And then the last genre I can think of is racing. Who wouldn't love a high-octane racer with just a groovy-ass bass line by Commander Meouch? And I mean, they wrote a whole song about Speed Racer, essentially, called Phantom Racer. It's fantastic. Pick a genre that you can have fun with. And I think you can have fun with all 3 of those genres. And finally, the last artist, who I truly believe is the longest shot to ever work in video games, not only because I don't think he wants to really work in video games because he's so busy doing movies, also he's very old, so if he ever changed his mind, I'm afraid it would be too late. That would be the great John Williams. John Williams is probably the greatest composer ever. His sheer knowledge of music dwarfs that of me, and I am but a lonely boy who is a fan of music. I didn't study music. I just randomly talk about music, whether it be to coworkers, or friends, or to people on the internet. I just like to talk. Talk. I don't know shit. The knowledge that man has with music, if I had a conversation with him, I would end up being like, it's a no-brainer. And here's the thing about John Williams. The man's genreless. He can do everything. He can do war with Saving Private Ryan or Schindler's List. He can do fantasy with like Harry Potter or like a Jurassic Park. He can do sci-fi with Star Wars or E.T. It just goes on and on. His credentials are insane. The genre I think I'd pin him in most to do would be like a 3D platformer where you're walking around different worlds, exploring, having lots of fun, a lot of fantastical elements, or like a third-person action-adventure game a la Uncharted or Tomb Raider. I love the work Henry Jackman does in Uncharted, but I can't help to think what John Williams would do given like another adventure franchise. Because I'm not even the biggest fan of Indiana Jones. The movies are alright to me, the third one's the best. But I love the music. The music in those movies is so good, and I'd love to see what like a reimagined version of that by John Williams looks like, where he's been separated from Indiana Jones since Crystal Skull. This is a new franchise. He can kind of try to play with all these new themes. He doesn't have to worry about sticking to the old Indiana Jones themes, which are great. They're great themes, but I just love to see what a new action-adventure movie soundtrack would sound like by the great John Williams. And that's it. As I said before, I love talking about music. I can talk about it for days on end, bands, soundtracks, everything. So thank you so much for watching this video, and until next time, see ya!